agreement will replace the RAMA and will be in place for an initial period of 15 years. Renault will transfer 28.4% of Nissan shares into a trust and will keep 15% direct shareholding in Nissan. This transfer, by the way, triggers no impairment in Renault financial statements. Renault will have full flexibility to sell the Nissan shares held by this trust, along, of course, a coordinated process with Nissan, with no obligation to sell the shares within a specific predetermined period of time. Renault and Nissan will retain a direct 15% cross-shareholding with lockup and standstill obligations. They will both be able to freely exercise the voting rights attached to their 15% direct shareholding. All this will be subject to a cap of their voting rights to 15%. The voting rights attached to the Nissan shares held in the trust shares will be neutralized, quote unquote, for most decisions. But the economic rights attached to these shares, dividends, and share sales proceeds will still entirely benefit Renault until such shares are sold. We also continue to ensure cross-representation in the board of directors of the two companies, with the same representation level as today. Two board members representing each company will sit at each respective board. The Alliance Operating Board is confirmed in its coordination role, and I feel very honored to chair this important governance body. And now, if you may, I will ask Ushida-san, Kato-san, and Luca de Meo to tell you more about how they see the new alliance. I propose, by the way, that we start with you, Ushida-san. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Snell. Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be with you today as we take significant step towards the next level of the alliance. The world is changing fast, and it is critical for us to look at the way we do the business. Nissan has started its transformation journey with Nissan Next, planned in 2020, during extraordinary times of the pandemic and massive chip shortage. While being resilient, we took a visionary step with Nissan Ambition 2030. This set a North Star for our business. Similarly, Renault defined Renaulution and Mitsubishi their midterm plan. However, we have been facing more challenging and disruptive environment. We need to adapt to the new reality and urgently address the issue like climate change, geopolitical scenarios, raw material hikes, or fragmentation of market. In whichever context, it is true that we can no longer stay still or work as an extension of the past. We need a next level of transformation. This is not a choice, but a need. Recognizing this, Renault has already stepped up with their next phase of their strategy, and Nissan is working on its next midterm plan and strategic initiatives to support our vision of empowering mobility. The alliance is a key pillar for us. We believe that the next level of transformation has to happen at the alliance to adapt to the next era. It is with this spirit that we have been holding intensive discussions over the past months. We are building on collaboration across the alliance to enable even deeper efficiency and shared expertise in areas such as electrification, SDVs, and autonomous driving. The high-value initiatives that we are considering will enable each company to fast-track innovation, improve cost efficiency, and add value. Luca will talk about this later, but for Nissan, we strongly support our regional strategies. In fast-growing markets, such as LATAM and India, we will enrich our lineup with new models. We will continue to enhance efficiency in our plants. In Europe, we continue to work on significant collaborations. These projects are continuation of our existing cooperation supporting our geographical strategies, where Nissan is taking the lead in Japan, US, and China, while working with Renault and Mitsubishi Motors in Europe and ASEAN. Another very important area is electrification, which is the core of our long-term strategy. Nissan continues to support customers to adopt electrified mobility. However, the speed of electrification and customer acceptance differs from market to market. Also, the regulatory and policy environment is constantly evolving. To catch this momentum, we are exploring many opportunities and options, including enhanced collaboration with our alliance partners. I'm happy to share with you that Nissan intends to invest up to 15% in Ampere. We regard Ampere as an enabler for Nissan to participate in new business opportunities in Europe, providing new collaboration and generating value. It is also of importance that we maximize our alliance transformation with an efficient structure and enhanced governance. As I mentioned earlier, the next level of the alliance requires a new approach. This will enable the alliance members to prepare for future opportunities on an equal basis. Equal partnership is an enabler of transformation. I'm very confident that this new structure will deepen mutual trust. This will ensure that each member contribute with their strengths and work with shared ambition for the future of mobility. However, the next level of transformation is not limited to business. To make transformation a reality, we must build a strong culture to support it, a culture of trust, transparency, and respect. We cannot realize the true potential of our transformation without the right mindset. This mindset is important not only for Nissan but also for partnership to be successful. It is this principle that helped Luca and me to drive the discussions to meaningful conclusions. I'm glad that both of us believed in the importance of this transformation and had strong support of Mr. Sanal. Let me assure you, Nissan will continue to make significant progress to deliver sustainable growth and realize our long-term ambitions. I want to thank all our employees, partners, and customers for your strong belief in Nissan. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to both Renault and the Nissan teams on the new agreement that was presented today. I feel very positive about the new direction. This really fits the rapidly changing environment in the current automotive business, and I'm sure that it will strengthen all the alliance partners, including Mitsubishi Motors. We at Mitsubishi Motors already have many achievements that illustrate the benefits of the alliance, such as our new Outlander based on the joint CMF-CD, which is already a great success. The new K car, EK Cross EV, which was awarded the Car of the Year Japan together with Nissan Sakura. I'm confident that under the new framework, the alliance will bring us further valuable benefits. Mitsubishi Motors has to concentrate a large part of our resources on the market where we have strong presence, such as the ASEAN and Oceania countries. Thanks to the alliance, we can leverage the expertise of our partners to meet the customers' expectations wherever in the world we do business. In that sense, Europe and North America are potential markets where we can utilize alliance's assets. We have several projects going on with Nissan and Renault about expanding our product lineup in many regions and market segments. Being an alliance member enables us to enhance our business, especially for electric vehicle. For example, North America is a promising field of collaboration where we will naturally rely on Nissan to enrich our car lineup. Europe is another area for business enhancement thanks to the alliance. As you know, we have already announced some OEM product from Renault, the ASX M Colt. Their development are currently ongoing with a high level of efficiency, and our dealers are really delighted with those products. As a next step, due to the strict emission regulations in Europe, we have not just but studied introduction of BEVs. I'm sure that OEMing from Ampere can be one of the very attractive solutions for us. I think that Ampere should be a part of our EV strategy in Europe. Considering these points, we will further study our share participation in Ampere. We see the alliance as a great opportunity for each member company to go further by using our best skill and each company's market advantage. As Sunao-san, Luca, and Uchida-san explained, Alliance will proceed to that next step. I believe that the new framework will bring us further success for the three companies. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. So I actually came in the house in mid-2020, so actually it helped me not to have a very clear and simple perspective on the alliance. My priority with the Renault team was at the beginning to fix Renault, and then to develop our own strategy. I always look at the alliance as from the business side, and I try to push with the team to create an architecture of the alliance that would maximize the value for Renault first, but also for each partners and for all the stakeholders. And I consider that what we have agreed is actually a much better setup than what we have had in the past few years. I like to illustrate this like a three-stage rocket. On top you have now a new governance scheme that is much more straightforward. We can now operate like a normal company, like any other company that has a cross-shareholding participation. So before we had 43, like Jean-Dominique says, 43.4% without any voting right. Now we have 15% with full voting rights, and the same is for Nissan. And the remaining 28%, as Jean-Dominique explained, is neutralized as of today. But we will keep economic rights, including dividends, as long as we won't sell them. We have agreed on an orderly sell down of these shares, where Renault can decide when and how to reduce that. It means we have actually also more agility and choice to continue improving the quality of Renault's capital allocation. So the middle stage of the deal, seen from Renault, is about regaining some strategic agility without breaking necessarily the ties and the synergies that were existing and where they exist. Renault has now a clear strategy, as we have explained on the 8th of November, to specialize on the topics that will create the value in the automotive industry of the future. So we decided sometimes to do it with partners, sometimes not even coming from the automotive industry. So you have to see our, let's say, and the deal and our strategy. It's actually a different and complementary concept to the alliance that, as you know, has been created on the logic of finding size and synergies at the beginning. Because the world has changed, as Uchida-san said, in 24 years. So, but by executing this deal, we actually can do both, okay? We can preserve the scale, all of us, but at the same time working on what will make us unique as a Renault, as a Nissan, or as Mitsubishi. So I want to talk about Ampere for a moment. After the announcement of Qualcomm investment, so the investment of Nissan and potentially Mitsubishi, that was a nice surprise today, that confirms the attraction of that project, confirms the attractiveness of this EV and software front runner that we are building in Europe. But you can also look at Ampere as the product that will allow Nissan and Mitsubishi to be in a stronger position, for example, in Europe, than any other non-European company wanting to stay or enter into this EV and software, let's say, race in Europe. And then I'm talking about HORSE. Nissan and Mitsubishi will not enter into HORSE. They are among the, I think, 8 customers that we will have right from the beginning. But I can assure you that they will benefit from the productivity gains and the synergies generated by this new venture. So they will get engines potentially at very, very good, and improving cost and price. But the most important thing for me, which has been totally underweight in discussion in the media, where everything was focused on rebalancing or IP, is that the base of this deal is that we are reactivating business operation like at the beginning of this alliance. So we have identified, we have quoted, we have planned, and are ready to start initiatives that will benefit all companies involved and that might create hundreds of millions in value every year, maybe billions if everything works perfectly. So this is a very, very important part of the story that was not told so far. Let me go quickly in some other things. I'm going to start with Latin America, okay? In Latin America, we will have new exciting projects in Argentina, as well as a new Renault vehicle to be produced in Mexico. It will be the with local production. So this whole thing for Nissan, for Renault, is about balancing, de-risking, but also boosting operation in Latin America that we know will be one of the regions of the world that will grow in the next years. Then we have India. India is a joint lineup for India and for export, with bigger and more technological cars based on Renault platform. It is actually the only possibility for us and Nissan to stay profitably in one of the most important markets in the world. Nissan small car, city car, will be produced in electricity in France from 2026. This car has 80% commonalization with the Renault 5. And because of this deal, we enable a 40% reduction in the entry ticket for Nissan. So a very, very competitive proposal. Again, we said we didn't force anybody to do things. It was the choice of Nissan. Kato-san mentioned ASX, Colt, to be produced in Spain and in Turkey. And maybe there are other things we can offer you in the future. All these plans will boost our capacity utilization in Europe. And very important is also the LCV. On the LCV, Nissan will buy Renault Group Flexivan range. So this is the first software-defined vehicle that will enter in 2026 the Renault range. But there is also a project which we never talked about beyond the vehicle, okay? One example is we will double the Renault-Nissan outlets shared with the same investors by 2025. this will substantially increase those investors' profitability and reducing the distribution cost. We will deploy together an EV charging infrastructure in Europe together that will bring us at the level of the leader of the market. We were going to engage in circles. It's a lot of sense that Nissan jumps on the wagon, like, for example, putting together end-of-life batteries or the production of scraps in Europe to achieve quickly critical mass. So you see that that deal is, it's just not about changing the shareholder structure. Is a substantial deal based on operational common sense and business intention. So I would like to conclude by thanking all the teams. I want to send out to Nissan and Mitsubishi teams message that Renault is motivated to engage in this new chapter with the right mindset. So we will be consistent, we will be result-focused, we will be generous and fair, as I believe we have been, now Uchida-san, from our side so far in the negotiation. And to really conclude, let me take 30 seconds to honor Uchida-san. We have been knowing each other better in the last months, and I think we built mutual respect and trust. I think that is very important moving forward also for our organization. I can guarantee you that we wouldn't have the deal without him fighting for it. But make no mistake, he has been defending Nissan interest from the beginning to the end. But I found really an engaged, knowledgeable, fair, and trustworthy partner in him. So thank you, Uchida-san, and thank you, Jean-Dominique, for supporting us, and thank you, Kato-san, because we make, I think, a good team together. Thank you.
See, there are a tremendous amount of information behind the agreement that has been signed this morning, and I guess we will be very happy to go through the Q&A question now that I will try to monitor if you accept that. Before we start, I would honestly simply say thank you. Thank you to the three of you. Thank you, Luca. Thank you, Shida. Thank you, Kato-san. Honestly, I mean, you have been incredible in developing the trust that was necessary in such an incredible, important deal. And honestly, with all my heart, I have to say thank you, because we have been doing a tremendous work. And if I may, and I'm sure you would be okay with me, I would like to give a special thanks to the teams. Teams are sitting here in front of me, in front of us. They have been doing day and night an incredible work. And I have been witness in my life of many international deals, I can tell you. This one was interesting because, I mean, three companies, two main, of course, were working hard. And we're there with the result that we can now discuss together. It is a real new step for the alliance. I think it's history. And I'm more than happy to commend that with you and the help of our team here. I would like to open the Q&A question and answer session. So it's up to you. So I understand there is a question here, number one. Please go ahead.
Hey, hi, good morning. It's Henning Kosman from Barclays. Perhaps the first question for Mr. Uchida. If we're trying to understand your up to 15% investment in Ampere, please could you share how you think about the level of investment? What will determine if you go all the way up to 15% or if the participation level is going to be lower? And then Mr. Senard, I think you said you would go into lots of detail about the value-adding projects. Perhaps you could give us a few numbers as to what volume of business by when you're seeing in the regions. Luca, you mentioned India. I think that's perhaps a big one together with LATAM, if we could get just some more detail. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much. So perhaps Shazan.
Sure. First of all, thank you for your question. And I really would like to highlight again, if you look at the circumstances of the business we are facing, we cannot do the business in extension from the past for the future. And knowing that the alliance strengths and asset geographically, are we okay? Oh, what happened?
Oh, shoot.
Is he okay?
That's okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can I continue? I should wait?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay, if we could.
I think you can go.
Yeah. Okay. So from that perspective, we need to grow, and how we can further to make the alliance the next step. Then Luca has announced about his extension of the Renaulution, where the Renault would like to further make their value up through this Ampere. As being a partner, strategic partner, we further would like to seek our business opportunity, how we can work together, and therefore we said up to 15%, because this is further to see down in the road. We're just talking about the beginning now, and we really would like to have our participation to work together. So that's how the number was being set as up to 15%. For instance, that having one of the major strategic discussion on the new company, how we can further make our business opportunity to moving forward.
Okay, so that's for the point. When it comes to the projects, I said that they were highly value creative, and I strongly believe it. By the way, before I give the word to Luca, and perhaps after to Gupta-san, I think you have to understand that these projects are ready. I would say that they are not just in front of us like a dream. They have been largely discussed within the teams and prepared at the Alliance Operating Board level, so they are ready. Maybe, Luca, you would like to be more extensive, and maybe then Gupta-san would have to complement for the Nissan part.
Look, I don't, let's say, we used in the past to generically speak about, billions of synergies, et cetera, but then it was very difficult to trace. So we are not going to fall in the trap of giving you a number today. But what I can tell you is that it's, first of all, it's a combination of maybe cost avoidance, not investing twice in the same thing, maybe additional opportunity to get in volumes, margins, because we do better cars. So it's a combination of all, and it's really sizable. Okay, so it's maybe hundreds of millions a year. But what is important, they are very fairly shared between the two companies. Maybe sometimes 50-50, sometimes 60-40, sometimes 40-60. But that's the way, let's say, we build all the projects. And we actually picked, to make sure that the thing would be pretty locked, projects that we can only do together. Okay, there's no way you can do it separately. So that at least we are condemned to work, okay? So sometimes it's, staying into a market, sometimes it's technology, sometimes it's, a new, an operation in a plant. So it's a combination of all, and you will be able to see and to track the progress of the things based on the success of the project. As Jean-Dominique said, they are actually pretty well defined. We know how to do it. It's not rocket science, so it's something that we know how to do. And now let's say the challenge for us, for the teams, etc., will be to execute them. Okay, so we need to get back to work, get out of discussion with legal people, etc., and come into the operation and execute one after the other. But I think we have all the ingredients, and with the right mindset. Also the teams locally, they can, we have already proved that we can deliver. So that's what I can say on the thing. So, and it's not only India and Argentina, it's many more things.
Okay, but maybe Ashwani, I'd like to take the word on this project.
Thank you, Luca. I think as Luca said, I would summarize it that in the high-valued projects, synergy is not for synergy. Synergy is for performance of each company. To start with, I think we will be coming up with the numbers in few days, few months for different kind of projects which we are going to do together. But just to give you the magnitude which we are talking about, For example, in Latin America, which is roughly now a 5 million global auto market, for example, Nissan is only there with one SUV and one pickup, but we are going to cover from A segment till the full one-ton pickup, thanks to the exchange of products between the two companies, and not only products but also the manufacturing plants. For example, in Mexico, where Nissan is number one for last 11 years, Renault will get the opportunity to use Mexico manufacturing plant of Nissan as well as the product, and this is how we are going to exchange the business between the two companies. In case of India, which became the third largest market, with roughly 4.7 million and going to 6 million very soon, with a 27% growth. Definitely after spending 12 years together with Renault and Nissan in manufacturing facility, in R&D center, in digital center, finally we are going to come up with a very, very pragmatic lineup focusing on SUVs, but also talking about the electric vehicle. And there also we are going to maximize our assets. So these are few projects which Lucas said. I think there are multiple projects in the pipeline, and as and when we are ready, we will be sharing with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwani. It helps.
And probably if I can say, I can add, repeat what I said before. Since a long time, we haven't worked together on such a sizable project. So that's, everybody has to understand this. This is a very important part of the story.
Right, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe then number two here, then don't worry, I'll come to you afterwards, but yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. It's Jose from JP Morgan. A question for Luca. Can you maybe explain a little bit more the framework that you have, that you're contemplating to sell the stake in Nissan? What are the key variables that you're thinking about, and how do you want to proceed? Do you have a time frame for that? And then for CEO of Nissan, I'd love to understand a little bit better, how are you evaluating the investment in Ampere? Which key variables would you like to see from the investment project to take the step to invest? Thank you.
So the way we dealt on the, let's say, and the spirit behind the idea of creating the trust and then agreeing on the procedure, on the proceeds, how to do it, was obviously not to impact Nissan negatively. So I think we will do it in an orderly, in a good faith, we will do it in an orderly manner. So we have, let's say, negotiated with Steven and on how to do it, because it's no aggressive intention into the thing, but it will allow us to monetize a big amount of money that we can use on other projects, because you don't need to trap so much money to make the alliance work, because that's basically the story. So it's going to be gradual. We have some thresholds, and we also have agreed on the concept of an acceptable shareholder, because we are not here to, intrude the governance of Nissan. We have to do it, like a good partner. So, but the good news is, of course, that we did it with the proper spirit. But the good news for us is that we can kind of monetize this, and I think it's important for us because we have so many, let's say, ideas and projects that we want to run that money could come forth. I don't think it's going to be an issue of weeks or months. It's going to take some time, but it's okay like this. I mean, the direction is set, and that's what we're going to try to do professionally and in a collaborative spirit.
Yeah, thank you, Luca. Maybe I would like to add a little bit more, because as I said in my speech, the purpose is not the rebalancing. The purpose is how we can make ourselves much stronger in the next stage. And in order to enable that, the governance or that opportunity as a Nissan to do the value up is important, as what Luca is doing for the Ampere. If you look at the many enterprises today, they are doing the order transformation. Why? Because it is very urgent for the automotive industry to transform, and how we can make the company to the value to be much higher. And really would like to support what Luca is doing. If you talk about the Renaulution, he is moving the step by step how to make the Renault value to be increased to meet with the market needs. That's the main point. And in our side, can you imagine like a Nissan in 5 to 10 years ago, we used to have a global standard model of the business that could be probably appreciated in the US market, China market, and Europe market. But if you look at it today, let's take an example of the electrification. as I said, market by market, different speed, different regulation, then we have to make our value through that history or future under such circumstances. So therefore, we felt would be very good business opportunity for us to do and pair with a strategic way. So that's the reason how. Of course, how do we go on the next stage? We will have, when the time comes, we would like to further to explain, but that is how we started to discuss, because me and Luca started to discuss from what? The last May, to talk about the next era of the alliance, and how do we want to set ourselves to transform.
Looked like more time.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, because I'm probably talking with you much more longer time than my family, by the way. But that is how we are doing, and that's very important. So I was a bit more emotional to saying, because the alliance always had this respect, and we have to put everything transparent. We know what is the history, what we had on 23 years. Then how did we want to work for together to make the company, to make our value to be much stronger? That is one of the most important things I really would like to address to everybody here.
I like your word, Shida-san, when you say that rebalancing was not the purpose of the deal. I mean, that's very important for everybody to understand that it's a catalyst, honestly, because the business is the focus, really. And if I may just add something, I mean, at last, we're going to get rid about misinterpretations, which obviously has, made everybody busy for so many months without any real purpose. So now all that is behind, and we are just living now a very normal, simple legal situation between partners that want to work together for the next 15 years and more. And it's so much simple that way that I think it will tremendously help the business, which is basically what we want to do. So thank you for the question. Thank you, Shida-san. Maybe on number 4, I understand that's the next one, and then I will be back.
Good morning.
Yes, hello.
Peter Campbell at the Financial Times. 2 questions, if I may. Luca, you're going back into Mexico. Does that mean one day you might like to go further north into the United States market? And a more general question on projects. This is not the first time we've heard about the alliance working together. Often, the problem has never been that one company invested in another or there were shareholdings, but the fact that it's very difficult to get teams from 2 different companies to work together on the ground. I wonder what today's announcement does to help that issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, you really can speak out.
I think that...
But the fact that it's very difficult to get teams from 2 different companies to work together on the ground. I wonder what today's announcement does to help that issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, you really can speak out.
I think that, let's say, it's actually not in the plan to imagine, let's say, Mexico as a platform for us to go to US. That's what Nissan does, okay? So we are more looking at the way to use Mexico to kind of balance Latin America so that you can play on 3 or 4 countries like, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico. Then you have something, it's a very volatile market, very risky somehow. So the more you can put, different eggs in different baskets, the better it is. That's the spirit of the thing. It's actually very competitive, and Nissan is very good there. So we just have to find the right product and the right platform to do it. So it's not like completely, so we'll have to discuss. I'm not going to do things if just because I have to do them or it's announced into the thing. I'm going to do that because I make money on the thing. It's a very simple concept, okay? So it's still a work of the next let's say months and weeks, but we have it pretty clear. Let's say on the potential, let's say on the way the system will work. I think that we need to, and this is also another discussion we'll have to do with Ashwani, with Uchida-san and the team, is we have to re-engineer the connection between the 2 organizations, right? So because the whole spirit of the thing at that time was, or the last years, maybe last years no, but at a certain time, was to actually converge the 2 organizations to have one company. But actually we realized that it doesn't make sense, right? So it's much better if each company does the best for, optimal thing from themselves, get organized, because if we do good job, there will be opportunity to cooperate, okay? That's the thing. So we have to re-engineer. I think there is a possibility to do this around the 5 or 6 things, or the project. So of course we have to reinforce and maybe restructure on the purchasing side if necessary, or if let's say maybe we can optimize, but it's a platform that is very strong and works. We probably have to work on the innovation and techno roadmap discussion for the future IPs, et cetera, and how to do it. And then we have the opportunity on the projects, okay, to actually give really responsibility to each other to actually execute the thing, right? So, we have to design a project-driven organization rather than mixing up like pizza quattro stagioni, everything together. That's not what we want to do. So I don't know, Ashwani, if you want to make a comment on that one, but because as a CEO, I think it would
lend
be
the microphone.
No, thank you, Luca. I think, Peter, your question is what will change? I think one thing which we are changing for sure is to not have a business relationship based on buyer and seller agreement. We are changing the business relationship into profit sharing schemes because the moment each member of the team is convinced that there is a performance in it, then we don't have to worry. So as top leadership team, what we are doing is to build a system, a process, a governance, which will convince each and every team member that this project will bring the performance to their company, which means, once again, synergy is not the objective, synergy is the consequence. One of the example, I think in the last Alliance 2030, we talked about the compact EV. Nissan almost decided to exit this segment. And when Luca proposed the Renault car, and he himself, I remember the sketch he made for me, that Ashwani, if you are able to do this compact car in Europe, fully electric, based on this product, this will be an iconic model for Nissan. And this proposal came in, and we were able to convince our designers and our teams that this is the product which Nissan is looking for, which can be an iconic product in Europe. On the other side, when it comes to whether this business will make sense or not to start with the conventional way of discussion, or I would say negotiation, going into what value it brings to Renault to share the platform, to share the plant, and what value it brings to Nissan not to invest in the compact EV and use that. I think that's something which we are changing and which we are going to change for all these high-value projects. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Aswani. If I may, because if you look at the Alliance in the past, that we had some very strong challenge in terms of the volume, right? But look what happened to the Nissan in the past 2-3 years ago, right? We, under the Nissan Next, we shifted our quality of sales. We want to have a value to be provided to the customer. We want the customer to have the good acceptance of our vehicle. So what's important now is how we can make sure to create the value, which also enabled to reach to the business in terms of the profit. And also we do have our responsibility for the society as well. So world has been changed. We need to wake up. And we need to transform ourselves to different way of the business. And that is what we are going to do in the Alliance. So we would like to further to show you some proof point later, or when it comes to time, because we need to have this kind of mindset to be changed. We have to get out of some typical way of the working, because the world is changing. And that's the most important. That's the reason why we have in this whole discussion together, the partnership, to look back what was the way and how we want to go forward together.
I think before we get to the question 2, Kado-san, maybe on this point, the partnerships between, you had a word in your text.
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
like
Thank you, Funasan. Of course, as a Mitsubishi, we don't have a so long history of Alliance member compared to the Renault or Nissan. But so far, we have been involved in several projects. But
during the, for example, like AOB, I know that, so far there are a lot of difficult and a bit complicated discussion was ongoing. And, I also felt that it looks a bit difficult. But under this new agreement, I think that we are going to the next step. And for me, it looks that the alliance will be more flexible under this new framework. And also, it will be open and much more free to everybody, including Mitsubishi Motors. So this is really welcome for Mitsubishi Motors too. And I'd like to have a more close relationship with two companies to have more collaboration. Thank you.
Okay, then thank you. So perhaps number two now in the room, waiting for some time.
Thank you for taking my question.
Please.
First question is for Mr. Uchida and Mr. DeMel. As there have been many discussions on IPs during the negotiation, what's the conclusion or agreement two companies have reached so far? And is there anything like Renault has to ask for Nissan's permission to use Nissan's IP?
Yeah, I think...
the second question is for Mr. DeMel. And how do you estimate the market value of Ampere? And is Renault going to keep the majority of share of Ampere after the future IPO? And I'd like to know what you think about the market environment of today. Thank you.
Start with that, or?
Yeah, I think I can start with the market environment, as usual, complicated. But I think in the case of Renault, we feel like because of the, let's say, of what the work we did in starting 2020, we entered the year with a very solid, let's say, order bank, and we're getting new cars coming, the Austral, the Megane, that are really, let's say, pumping up the business. And we enter end of 23, 2024 with the new wave of products. I mean, remember that Renault and all its brands will launch 25 cars from now to 2025. So I think we will be pushed, and we have the potential to be anti-cyclical. And we have put the house in the right order in terms of cost, etc. We'll continue, but I think I'm relatively optimistic, but we are not naive. We know that the environment is complicated. You have recession, we have inflationary pressure, etc., etc. But what I can tell you that in the last 2 years and a half, the Renault team has been used to fight very tough battles. So we're not scared about, challenges into the business. So that's to answer the market value of Ampere. That's not me that decides that. It's the market that decides that. And the only thing we can do is actually put enough substance into the project so that the market will recognize and the investors will recognize the value of it. I feel that when you are creating something that might, sell 1 million electric cars in Europe, that might achieve, 25 billion turnover, double-digit profitability with the very efficient manufacturer, all the technology in 2 platforms, 6 models, plus some of the models that will come, for example, from the partner, plus Alpine, software-defined vehicle, centralized electronic architecture of the new generation, a very strong distribution already in place, retail financing already in place. I mean, there are not many examples on the planet of EV software, let's say, focused organization like this one. So the investors will decide. I cannot fix the price. I can aim. We have some estimation, but I don't think it would be fair for me to share that kind of information. Then I leave it to the IP, which became one of our favorite topics.
Yeah, I always get surprised every time I see a lot of the IP on the newspaper. But, when you talk about, let's talk about we had 23 years of the working together. We have a lot of a co-owned asset in the company. And our partner is making the transformation, and we are, of course, discussing in a common sense way how we're going to have the IP to be treated in the right manner. So it's not only the Nissan, but also the Renault, and it's going to be the same discussion. So it was a good moment that we have been able to discuss that, because again and again, I go back with the past 23 years. Now we want to transform the way we're going to work, collaborate each other for the next year to be competitive.
That's the key for us. Then in order to do that, we need to look back all the things, not only the IP, how are we going to further to work on a project basis, as the question was raised, how are we going to collaborate on a new area like the Ampere we are talking about, and how does the governance enabling that things. So it was a very huge change from the past and the future. Why we are doing that? Because we want to grow. And under this difficult circumstance, we cannot do it. Again, I'm telling 100 times same word. We cannot do the extension from the past way for the future. We all know that. Therefore, we are transforming. And that has taken a lot of a good discussion. I'm very happy that now we came to this moment. And now we have to prove to the world how we can further to make our value to be enhanced.
We became IP PhDs on the thing being hip.
Yeah.
I think that, let me say two things. One is a clear message is, with the discussion on the IPs, etc., and the deal that we made, I think we can execute all the projects that we have in the plan. So that's, should be reassuring for everybody. So the Ampere, the Horse, the Alpine, all the things that we have into the thing. So that's, and we'll have the techno bricks and the access to what we need to do to execute the project and to show to the market that this thing, all the projects have substance and value, okay? But one thing that we learned in a way, and this is important to understand, is that the whole IP setup and the whole IP discussion, all the way the things were shared, etc., was actually not completely structured at the level of granularity that is necessary in a partnership between two global companies at the level that is required. Okay, so by discussing this, we actually revised the way IP will be regulated. We probably solve a large majority of the legacy IP discussion, and we have now clear rules on how to handle future IP creation, okay? So that means that we had to go into the operational, into the OS of the house and reprogram, recode some of the things. But now we have a base that we know it's much more clear, transparent for the future. That's the benefit also of this very, very painful discussion on the thing. We have a system now that works.
Yeah, the good news is, I guess, that we can talk less about IP.
For you, compared to the strategy you presented last year, are we kind of adding something to the strategy? Did we meet your expectations concerning the alliance, or is there more room for improvement? And then maybe for Kato-san, as the, let's say, a little bit less involved party here in the governance realignment, what would be your message to the owners of Nissan and to the owners of Renault, why they're not getting a bad deal, why this is a good deal? So what's the upside kind of for the for some of the shareholders or stakeholders that may feel the other part is getting the better of the other? So kind of your message as a third party in the room. Thanks.
You want to start first, or you want to think about
it? Please, okay.
No, I think, I mean, very bluntly, I think that my priority is to actually execute the strategy of Renault. Okay, and I expect the same thing from Uchida-san and Kato-san. They have to care for their house and their strategy. But when we do it right, there will certainly be opportunity of cooperation. So I see the whole alliance story not as the final end of the thing, but I treat that as an opportunity based on pure business logic. We have identified already things that are very sizable, 100 millions, billions potentially of value. So we will take care of both things, which is the strategy of Renault, and I will make sure that with all the Nissan team and Mitsubishi team, that we can execute one thing after the other, tan. But as I said, that's operation. We know how to do it. No science fiction. So that's the way I see it. And maybe I said it a different way. The alliance came to a situation where, was kind of based at a certain point on a culture of compromise. So one would say yellow, the other would say red, and then we would do a lot of orange. but it's always a kind of a suboptimal thing. And I believe that everybody, you know, it needs to make a very nice red, and and I have to do transform yellow in gold, and when you see the gold, maybe you buy. You understand? So that's a new spirit, and even a good, healthy, positive competition, okay, between the teams to bring on the table of the negotiation a better solution. I think it's good for the companies, between engineers, between design, between commercial people, etc., etc. I think it's important to foster that kind of eye-to-eye, healthy competition between the organization, not compromise, because there is someone that say, you got to do it. You say red, I say, the other one say yellow, no orange. No good. Okay, so that's also what this deal allows us to do, which is good.
Okay, from me, very simply speaking, I'm very happy to hear that, you know, both company came to the conclusion this time and find out a new direction. I know that, you know, our two companies, including the both teams, were working very hard for around more than 6 months, 1 year. Yeah, and finally came to the conclusion. So then, very frankly, I'd like to say congratulations to Uchida-san and Lucas, Sunao-san, and both teams. And as I told you, with this new agreement, I think Alliance will be much more flexible than before, and that is also bring a benefit, valuable benefits to Mitsubishi Motors too. And as Uchida-san or Sunao-san said, currently the automotive environment is very difficult, like a lot of regulation and carbon neutrality and electrification. And it is obvious that, you know, just only by one company, we cannot survive in this very difficult momentum to the time. Then after this new framework, I believe that we can enlarge our effective collaboration more in many regions. For example, like in Europe, we are now looking for the new EV. Definitely, I need EV in Europe. Probably we can take some of the EV from Renault or maybe from Nissan. Right now we are studying, but yeah, it's obvious that, you know, this new agreement gives us much more possibility for the future.
Take the Renault is better.
No. Give me an attractive price. Huh?
Okay, well, thank you, Kato-san. Never forget, you are not and you will never be a minor partner of this alliance. Please keep that in mind. Okay, I think we need to move. Thank you. I guess it answers your question. There is number 4. Is there number 4 first, and then you, gentlemen. Sorry, please, number 4.
Hi, it's Stephen Wilmot from the Wall Street Journal. 2 questions. First, for Uchida-san. Do we have a time frame for the new Nissan strategy? And also, your implication with the whole regional pace of EV development thing was that there's no benefit from global scale in EVs, which the success story in EVs would seem to point in the opposite direction. I'm just wondering if you could elaborate on how you think about a global EV strategy versus this need for a regional approach implied by your investment in Ampere. And then for both Uchida-san and Mr. De Meo, can I just ask, how are you measuring the success of the new alliance internally and externally?
Okay, so maybe we can start from the second question, that how do we measure internally? Well, as far as Nissan is concerned, first of all, I'm very happy to reach at this level of the stage. As Luca mentioned, and then also Kato-san mentioned, how we can have the flexibility to make the opportunity of the business necessary for each individual company. So that is allowing this way of the deal for each company to make such opportunity of the business. I always go back again to the past way of the alliance working. I'm not criticizing those. Maybe those way met in that generation or timing, but we should not be talking from the consequence about the past, right? Then how are we going to equip ourselves for the future is the most important point. And I'm very proud that today we have been able to announce how we're going to work together for the next future in the alliance. And I'm very proud that to be explained to our employee, because we have been waiting for this moment. How we can further to make the Nissan value on our designated market of the portfolio. And that goes to your first question as well, when it comes to the electrification, that it is very challenging. Each market evolving at a different pace, and there's a regulation evolving at a different pace, and there's a customer acceptance evolving at a different pace. So again, if you talk about 5 or 10 years ago of the business scheme, and today it's totally different. We need to make ourselves to make time to market, design to market on each designated area of the portfolio of the business we have. From that perspective, as Kato-san mentioned, it's very challenging to do it alone, rather how we can maximize the alliance asset that we have today, or my partner moving on the future as to ride for our business opportunity. That comes also for the electrification. So that's what we are all discussing today. And I really would like to make those to be, enable us, from the Nissan point of view, to make our presence in each market of our value to be demonstrated. And when you ask about the next midterm plan, we are still on the Nissan Next. When the time comes, we'll be ready to announce our Nissan strategy in the right time. Thank you.
So answering to your question on the measure success, I think it's very simple from our side. It's return on capital employed. So my responsibility is to allocate the capital that is given to me to the right project. So that's the criteria we will use to measure the success of the Alliance initiative. They are in competition with others that we're doing, but I think in many cases we have when we do it in 2 and 3, I think it's a big chance that we can have roses that are very good on the Alliance project. It's very simple.
Yeah. As simple as that. And by the way, the criteria of the follow-up of these projects will be monthly, I would say, at the Alliance Operating Board, and they will be seen and analyzed and clearly coordinated. So that's another way to ensure what Luca just said. Okay, I guess now it's number 2 at last for you. Sorry, been a bit long.
Thank you for taking my question. I'm Yoshio Arima from NHK. I'm asking an additional question about the possible 15% stake in Ampere of Nissan. So, Chida-san, is it enough stake for Nissan to have a certain influence on the new project with Renault? And also, I'd like to ask Luca-san that it's a possible 15% stake with a certain condition, just according to Nissan's decision. Do you think it's really passive or too cautious behavior for Nissan for your very important project of EV? Thanks so much.
You want to answer or you want me to?
You can start first, I think.
You?
Yeah. Well, I will hear to you first.
No.
No, but honestly, again, we felt, of course, Ampere is now created as the plan for the Renault future, right? And as we go along, we were discussing what could be our strategic partner level. Then we came to the number of up to 15%. I'm being very honest with you on this discussion, because we want to have a strategic discussion, and that will represent the 15% as the starting point of what we discuss. But as we go along, of course, there could be many kind of discussion may happen. And of course, knowing the Nissan situation today, that initially started of the discussion was up to 50%. I don't know whether I'm answering to your question, but after Luca, I can elaborate even if you have more.
I mean, look, I think that for me, my responsibility is to make Ampere project strong, attractive enough, so that Uchida-san and even Kato-san may say, okay, that's a place where it's worth putting my money. Okay, so I'm in competition probably with other projects that Nissan has. Maybe they will come with a kind of similar, slightly different idea, and they would give priority to their project because it's more, there's more return for them. So my focus is, let's try to make a proposal, as we did like for, with the small car platform, etc., that is so attractive that they can't refuse the thing, right? So nobody's forcing Nissan or Mitsubishi to enter Ampere. I think it's nice, to do it together because they have cars into the thing. They might by technology use plants, etc. So it makes a lot of sense. It's his decision, the level of influence he wants to get into the thing, and it depends on the amount of money he will put into the game, right? But you will have to decide if it's money well allocated as a CEO of Nissan. And my job is to make sure that this is a very, very attractive thing. That's the way we see the story. We need to make Ampere a strong proposal. We have a lot of arguments. We need to keep, some floating into the thing if we, looking at an IPO, etc. So, and because on the other hand, Renault, and it's very important, will never lose a majority on the Ampere because it's one of the, a core project of the future of Renault. So if you are above the 50% and then you have, internal anchor investor, investing 45%, there is nothing for the market, and then it doesn't make sense. So I think we need to find the right balance, and I have to propose some good deal to Uchida-san where he decides where to put the bar, or Kato-san.
Yeah. I think
it's fair.
Yeah. The showcase, one of the showcases of this new alliance, one point is for clear, Renault will clearly keep a substantial majority in this Ampere company. So everybody knows that, by the way, and it seems quite normal. So, so we're looking forward to this combination there. Back to you on this side. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for taking my question. It's Harold from Morgan Stanley. Congratulations on this agreement. It feels like we've been waiting a very long time for an agreement like this. And it's very nice to see you looking forward and operational as much as you are today. So hopefully, we wish you a lot of success with the new projects and things. Unfortunately, can I take you just back, to what we've experienced from the analytical and the investor community over the last 15 years or so? The group has a huge number of different stakeholders, as you know better than I do. Can you confirm that today, the framework agreement that you have, all of the framework agreements in place are satisfying all of those different stakeholders? Mr. Sanara, you probably more than anybody has the experience of all the different stakeholders, and I don't know how you can speak for them. Right. But, can we now hopefully get rid of some of these newspaper articles that we get every year? Exactly. Can we get rid of that? Is that all satisfied, or are there? No. Do you think there are still parties who are still not satisfied with the agreement you've made today? Thank you.
Well, I'll be very, very candid with you. First, we would never be standing in front of you if I was not totally sure that massively the stakeholders of our different companies are okay. When it comes to Renault, I'm, of course, well placed to say that that is the case. The French state, because you're talking about the French state, is behind the deal, has backed it completely, and it has even been publicly stated by the French head of state. So, I mean, that's clear and neat, and I have to tell you that, again, I would not be standing in front of you here if that was not the case. So be reassured that that is the case. When it comes to the Nissan stakeholders and Mitsubishi stakeholders, you're better placed for me than to speak for that. But my feeling is that you may still have a few spirits that are lost in the past, if I may say it that way. But they are less and less. That's my view. And hopefully they will disappear. Okay? That will be probably, I would say, a relief. So there we are. Is that all right for you?
Yeah, that is perfectly fine. But if I may add a word of that, is that we talk about equal partnership. And that will bring the opportunity of the business for each company in line with the strategy we are doing. So it should be appreciated with our stakeholders, because we cannot be as is. It will be not enough, right? So how we can maximize our potential way of the working in the alliance to make the value up of each company, then I believe that's what stakeholders are looking for. And that is our job to do that. So again, I'm very happy to make this framework. Then we really would like to demonstrate to the world how individual company first to get their value and the growth on each respective market, and how also that makes the alliance to be elevated to the next level. To be competitive is the key word, I guess. Thank you.
Is that okay for you? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Wow, where are we now? Is there a hand raised? Yes, perhaps, gentlemen, I can see you. I guess there were no others here. I'm like in an auction, you know, I'm trying to find out who's going to pay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. I'm Shinya Wake from the Asahi Shimbun. The question for both sides. To Bruno first, I understand that by this rebalance, you have made a big step forward with the Ampere plan. That's a good news for you. But there's a big but between the relationship as in general, if you bring down the sharehold, that seems in general weakening of the ties, not strengthening. And so please let me get it straight by asking you this bold question. Isn't this a start of the end of your relationship? And if you say not, how could you explain what you can do and what you cannot, what you can do from now on, which wasn't you couldn't do with the 40% stakes? And let me add a brief question to that. Have you or will you ask the Chinese car maker Geely to get on board with the Ampere? And a similar question to Nissan. So I like your idea that this couldn't be a purpose, and you have to make the means of this to achieve the purpose. But it's still unclear what you can do and what you cannot, which you couldn't do with the 40% stakes. And how are you going to make the advantage of this rebalance and the equal relationship in your mid and long-term strategy? Thank you.
Okay, I start. So I have the feeling that you're entering with not with a question, with an opinion. It's your opinion. And that's a different thing. So let me try to answer to your concern, or to share my opinion on the thing. So first of all, we are making the connection between the rebalancing Ampere. There's nothing to do. They are on the two different stages of the thing. We don't do Ampere because there is the rebalancing. We actually announced Ampere. We're working on it since a year and a half. Okay, so there's nothing to do, right? We probably, I have to say, let's say, we don't need the money to do Ampere. Ampere is financed, most of it, okay? Everything we're doing is to accelerate beyond 26, 27, the growth of Ampere, because we're still, deciding on next generation products, and having, resources will help us. That's the story. So no connection between rebalancing and Ampere. Just to make it clear to everybody, to make it simple, Renault is not moving from 43 to 15. It's actually moving from 0 to 15. Because in that 43.4, there was nothing for us in, okay? The contract that was signed was absolutely no influence into the system, right? And same thing for Nissan. Unfairly, I have to say, in the past, when Nissan had 15%, couldn't say anything at Renault. Right now, so both of us, we move from 0 to 15. It's not that we move back from 43.4 to 15. Look at the thing in a little bit of a positive way. And when you are 15 and you are a normal company, normal shareholder that can vote, can vent his opinion, I think the relationship is completely different. It's much more balanced, and I think it will help the operation. So for my part, I think I have let's say, answered. You asked me about the Geely story. I think Geely it's actually, the whole story started in Korea, where we really had an issue to fill the plant. So we found someone who would give us a platform that would be adapted to the local market to actually save a plant with a lot of jobs, thousands of people working, very, very good people, very motivated people, and we had nothing to do. Renault was in a crisis. We didn't have the resources. We didn't have the platform because, you know, Korea has big cars, etc., etc. So we had to find a solution, and the relation started like this. And then, as we had the urgency in Europe, more than in other regions of the world, to find a solution for combustion engine business, because you have a, 2035 combustion engine ban in Europe. So instead of waiting for 31st of December 2034 and then say, I have a problem, we are anticipating the thing and trying to play a game of synergizing our assets to gain productivity, to get maybe resources to develop a range of engines that will sell everywhere. 130 countries, if I remember correctly. So this is the old classical game of synergies and de-risking from a business that in our territory, in our perimeter, has a different dynamic than it has in China or US, etc., etc. So please understand that they were the partner. We actually asked to Nissan. Nissan says that they are not interested in that for the time being. And so, and so we had to do the thing, and we did it. So, but don't try to elaborate more on this kind of ties. We have a very good relationship with Geely. It's a very, very good company. We are not planning to get Geely to enter into the Ampere perimeter, just to ask for your question. But we have to already now to develop the Korean project. We need to develop the horse, which is already a lot of heavy burden on the teams to make it operational. But I think it's a very, very good thing for us.
Yeah. Then if I could add, so probably your comment is like, so if we become rebalancing, then Nissan may kind of walk away from the partner. I don't know. Probably that could be the one of the sense you said. But again, I would say it's totally different because we are going to have more opportunity for the future, right? But if you, again, I'm always trying to tell this, but seems to be it was not being accepted. Maybe my way of the explanation is not enough. But the world is already making the fragmentation of the market, right? Then again, how we can make our value of company to be demonstrated in each market? Can we continue to do in the old style of the way where that we used to be? The answer is no. And do you want to further work with a partner? Answer is yes. And that is the reason why we are doing this. And that I'm very sure this would even to motivate each of us and our employee, because we have a lot of opportunity that we can do with this. We don't want to be talking about Renault's, big shareholding to the Nissan, vice versa, or the past things that we had to face it. I mean, let's not talk about the history or past. Let's talk about from today to move into the future, what could be the best for the partnership. And I would like to emphasize, can we do it everything alone? The answer is very challenging to do that. Therefore, we are making this deal which enable each of us to maximize of all the good things we're doing from the past and to make those to be a next level. And in order to do that, what kind of setup or governance can make each company to have the opportunity, as we can use the word normal company. And I think this is a normal company. Then how are we going to make our opportunity also from Nissan perspective? He told me that Nissan has to make our strategy, yes, and Renault has their own strategy. Therefore, he went with the Ampere and the horse, which to make his company to vary up. And we also have to do that. Mitsubishi also has to do that. We are not in an old way. We have to do in a new way, knowing all the circumstances of the business that we are facing in the world. So hope you will be taken as very positively, and we are proud of starting of today. It's still starting for me, and how we can make sure that to be demonstrated to the market is the most important for us.
Yeah, and if I can add, sorry, but I think, The alliance is kind of an old marriage, no? You had up and downs. We had dark times, but we also had good times. So we already demonstrated that the thing could work at a certain time, and then down. So we have been working together the last 8 months to open a new, more sunny time for the cooperation. And I think that honestly, the best way to answer to your question is that to demonstrate that all the projects that we are getting in are successful. So it will take time, next months, years, etc., etc. So the best response to your question is, let's go back to work and execute one of the things one after the other, and maybe this question will not come, anymore in 3-4 years' time.
Well, I'm sure it will not come any longer, because if I may just add before we
Thank you for the trust.
to the last question online, I just want to add something. I mean, just to conclude on that point. I was the first of all these gentlemen to discover the agreements in which we were living. I can tell you it made the real pleasure of legal people, which I admire and respect, because honestly, it was almost understandable for nobody, okay? Myself, I took some time to try and understand, and I qualified this situation as strange, to put the minimum. And in the past 4 years, I spent my time in my mind thinking that the status quo was not possible for the future, and we should get rid of that and go away with a normal situation. So please understand that I could very well understand the Nissan situation, having 15% of a company without voting rights. I mean, the frustration is obvious, isn't it? I mean, it's human, isn't it? It's not even business. But everybody forgot that Renault, on his side, had 44% of a company without a say, without a vote. And I was sitting there at the General Assembly at Nissan in Tokyo, without a word to speak, because actually I had no legal right to do so. Can you imagine? So please forget about all that. These frustrations are behind us. That's the past. Let's not get lost in the past, as I said. Now look at the future. We have normal companies, normal links, clarified, simplified. That's it. Please. I will go to the last question. Perhaps Pierre-Yves Kenmer from Stifel on the mic. Is that all right? Okay. And that will be, sorry, the last question.
Yeah. Good morning. Do you hear me correctly?
Right. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for taking my question, and hi to everybody. I've got two, actually. First one is a follow-up on Ampere. I'm surprised that after this quite long
想背着背包自我放风出去走走吗？人们真的很需要一个和自己合拍的背包。一个粉红色的背包可以改变一天的心情。如果你帮他背背包，他会记得你的贴心。中天文创品牌 Keep Going 系列多功能双肩后背包，樱花粉、奶茶色2款，内有夹层可装 notebook， 即刻入手，请上快点购。有您的支持，中天 Keep Going。